You're watching the Stories That Scare channel. There is no turning back now.
The first time my doorbell camera recorded a car from 1958, I didn't think I was looking at anything supernatural. I thought I was looking at the coolest hot rod I'd ever seen. Candy apple red, chrome everywhere, white wall tires, engine rumbling so deep you could practically feel it through the recording. Then the driver's door opened. A young guy stepped out wearing cuffed jeans, a white t-shirt, black leather jacket, and enough grease in his hair to survive a hurricane. I remember thinking, this dude is committed to the look. Then I noticed the car parked behind him. It was from the 1950s too. So was the one behind that, and the one across the street. Then I noticed something worse. My neighbor's house wasn't my neighbor's house anymore. My name is Caleb Morgan. I was born in 1984, and when this happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the summer of 2023, I was 39 years old. Married, homeowner, father of a 2-year-old boy, which meant my hobbies had mostly become mowing grass, finding tiny socks in impossible locations, and paying for subscriptions I didn't remember signing up for. I liked technology. Not programmer-level technology. I'm more of a, have you tried turning it off and back on? Level technician. My dad was born in 1964. He liked technology considerably less. And my grandpa? Grandpa was born in 1943. At 80 years old, his relationship with modern technology consisted primarily of accidentally turning his phone flashlight on and asking everyone else why his battery kept dying. That becomes important, because Grandpa was 15 years old in 1958, and apparently, Grandpa had been keeping one hell of a story from us. It started at 1:47 on a Thursday morning. My doorbell camera recorded motion. I didn't see the notification until breakfast. My 2-year-old was sitting in his high chair eating blueberries and systematically dropping every third one onto the floor. I was clearing notifications. Package, neighbor, dog. Then, motion detected. 1:47 a.m. The thumbnail showed the red car. I opened it. Oh, even I knew enough about cars to know this thing was special. Long body, custom paint, chrome grille, white walls. Beautiful. It cruised past my house, then stopped. Rum, 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 rum. Driver's door opened. Out stepped Mr. Grease Lightning. Maybe 19. Leather jacket, hair slicked into a perfect pompadour. He shut the door and looked toward my house. I saved the clip, then sent it to Dad. What is this? Dad called 30 seconds later. Where'd you see that? My camera. When? Last night. That's a 55 Chevy. I knew that. You absolutely did not. I was getting there. Dad laughed. Send it to your grandpa. Why? Because he'll know more about it than I do. I looked at the video. Dad, Grandpa's 80. Exactly. Then Dad said something that stuck with me. He was there. Where? 1958. I laughed. I didn't understand how literal that sentence was about to become. That afternoon, I picked up Dad and took my son over to Grandpa's. Grandpa lived about 15 minutes away. Same house he'd been in for decades. Garage full of tools. Old photographs everywhere. A recliner that had apparently achieved protected historical status because nobody was allowed to replace it. Grandpa was on the floor playing cards with my son when I handed him my phone. What's this? Tell me what kind of car that is. Grandpa watched. Immediately. 55 Chevy. I looked at Dad. Dad smiled. Told you. Grandpa rewound it. Customized. He pointed. See that? No. Of course you don't. Apparently automotive knowledge had skipped directly over Dad and me. Grandpa kept watching. Then stopped. He leaned closer. Play that again. I did. Red Chevy rolls past. Stops. Driver gets out. Grandpa froze. The entire mood changed. Grandpa? He didn't answer. He took the phone from me. replayed it. Then again. Dad noticed too. "Dad?" Grandpa whispered. "Ronnie Whitaker." "Who's Ronnie Whitaker?" Nothing. "Grandpa?" He looked at me. "Where'd you get this?" "My doorbell camera." "No. I literally just told you. I mean, where did this recording come from?" "My house." Grandpa stood. "Caleb, that can't be your house." "Why?" He handed me the phone. "Look behind Ronnie." So I did. That was when I saw it. Old Buick. Old Ford. Station wagon. Different streetlight. Different utility poles. Smaller trees. My neighbor's house was there. But not the way it looked now. No satellite dish. Different windows. Different porch. There was even an old grocery sign farther down the road that hadn't existed in my lifetime. I zoomed. Henderson Grocery. Grandpa sat down. "That store closed before your daddy was born." Dad frowned. "What year?" Grandpa didn't answer. Instead, he pointed at Ronnie. "That's 1958? I laughed. Grandpa didn't. My nervous system sent its first push notification. Something ain't right. I checked the timestamp. July 20th, 2023, 1:47 a.m. Grandpa shook his head. "No." "What?" "That's Henderson's." "I heard you." "And that's Ronnie." "Okay." "And that's his Chevy." Dad finally asked, "How do you know Ronnie?" Grandpa looked at him, then at me. Then he got this tiny smile. "I whipped him." Dad closed his eyes. "Oh, Lord." "What?" Dad leaned back. "You're about to hear the boxing story." "What boxing story?" Grandpa looked offended. "You never told him?" Dad pointed at Grandpa. "Because nobody believes it." "It's true. Parts of it are true." "All of it." I sat down. "Okay, who was Ronnie?" Grandpa's smile widened. "State lightweight champion." I looked at the phone. Leather jacket kid. Then Grandpa. "You beat the state lightweight champion?" "Yep," Dad interrupted. "Behind a grocery store." Grandpa pointed at him. "Location doesn't affect hand speed." I started laughing. Grandpa explained. His mother, my great-grandmother, had one absolute rule. No boxing. Grandpa loved boxing. Therefore, naturally, Grandpa boxed. Just not anywhere his mother could find out. Behind Henderson Grocery was an open asphalt loading area. Teenagers had driven 4 wooden posts into the ground and stretched rope between them. That was the ring. No canvas, no padding, no commission, no judges, no doctor, just teenage boys making excellent life decisions on asphalt. Grandpa fought there constantly. He was 15, fast, strong, and apparently very, very good. Eventually word got around. There was some kid behind Henderson's nobody could beat. That's when Ronnie Whitaker showed up. 19 years old, state lightweight champion, local celebrity, same red Chevy, same leather jacket, same ridiculous hair. Why would a state champion fight a 15-year-old? Grandpa shrugged. Ronnie asked me the same thing afterward. I stared. Dad groaned. Here we go. Grandpa smiled. Ronnie came expecting to embarrass him. Everybody gathered around the ropes. Ronnie took off his jacket. Someone rang an old hand bell. And Grandpa destroyed him. Not hurt him. Not anything gruesome. Just embarrassed him. Ronnie couldn't catch him. Grandpa slipped his punches, countered, dropped him. Ronnie got up. Grandpa dropped him again. Third time, Ronnie's friend stopped it. I looked at Grandpa. How have I never heard this? You don't call enough. Dad almost fell out of his chair. You tell that story at Thanksgiving. Caleb leaves early. My 2-year-old suddenly walked over and slapped Grandpa's knee. Grandpa looked down. What? My son raised both fists. Grandpa smiled. See? Fighter. I picked him up. No, absolutely not. This bloodline has done enough. Grandpa continued. Ronnie couldn't handle the humiliation. The state champion had been beaten behind Henderson Grocery by a 15-year-old whose mother didn't even know he boxed. Couple weeks later, Ronnie came back. This time, he brought friends. How many? Grandpa thought. 4. I stared. 4 people? Plus Ronnie. 5. Dad interrupted. Ask him what happened. I looked at Grandpa. What happened? He shrugged. Whipped them too. I started laughing so hard I had to put my son down. Grandpa looked completely serious. Dad shook his head. I've been listening to this nonsense since 1978. You weren't there. I wasn't born until 1964. Grandpa pointed at him. Exactly. Stop correcting eyewitness testimony. That got me. I nearly factory reset my underwear. When I finally stopped laughing, I asked, So what happened to Ronnie? Grandpa's smile disappeared. Silence. Dad looked at him. Dad? Grandpa looked at my phone. Ronnie disappeared. When? Not long after. And the other guys? Grandpa looked at me. Them too. That stopped the comedy. 5 young men. Gone. Ronnie's Chevy disappeared with them. People assumed they'd skipped town. Police investigated. Nothing. Grandpa never saw Ronnie again. Until my doorbell camera recorded him 65 years later. Then my son pointed at the phone. Man! I looked down. What man? He pointed at Ronnie. Yeah, that's Ronnie. My son shook his head. Other man. Grandpa went still. What did he say? He's 2, Grandpa. Play it. I replayed the clip. Grandpa leaned close. My son pointed. There. At first, nothing. Then I saw him. Farther down the sidewalk, older man, dark suit, narrow tie, fedora, perfectly polished shoes, standing beneath a streetlight. Watching Ronnie. Grandpa stood so quickly his chair scraped backward. Turn it off. Who is that? Turn it off. Grandpa? Caleb. I stopped the video. I'd never heard Grandpa sound like that. Dad hadn't either. Who was he? Grandpa sat slowly. I don't know. Yes, you do. No. He looked at me. But I know what they called him. What? Grandpa whispered. The promoter. That night at 1:47, my doorbell camera recorded again. Same street, same year. Except this time, it was daylight. Kids on bicycles. Women in dresses. Old cars. Henderson Grocery open for business. My house, 65 years before it became my house. Then Ronnie's Chevy appeared. Stopped. Ronnie got out and walked directly toward my camera. That shouldn't have been possible. There was no camera in 1958, yet Ronnie walked straight toward it. He stopped inches from the lens, studied it, then said, You his boy? I nearly dropped my phone. Ronnie looked directly through the camera. You look like him. Then he smiled. Tell your granddaddy. He stepped closer. We're coming back. Recording ended. I called Grandpa. He didn't sound surprised. Who's we? Grandpa sighed. The boys I whipped. Grandpa. Yeah? They'd be in their 80s. Long silence. Then Grandpa said, Not if they went with the promoter. The next morning, Grandpa finally told us the rest. After Ronnie lost the second fight, he became obsessed. Not with boxing, with Grandpa. He wanted a rematch, a real one. He wanted everybody to see him beat the 15-year-old kid who'd humiliated him. Then somebody introduced Ronnie to the promoter. Nobody knew where the man came from. He showed up around boxing gyms, pool halls, backroom fights, always dressed perfectly, always carrying an old leather fight bag. And supposedly, he could arrange any fight you wanted. One night, Grandpa saw Ronnie speaking with him outside Henderson Grocery. Grandpa heard the promoter say, A champion deserves a proper rematch. Ronnie answered, I want another shot. The promoter asked, How badly? Ronnie said, As long as it takes. The promoter smiled. and held out his hand. Grandpa went home. By morning, Ronnie was gone. So were the other 4 boys. Grandpa whispered, "I always thought they'd left town." He looked at my doorbell camera. "Now I think something took them." The recordings continued, every night. 1:47. Each one moved closer to the night Ronnie disappeared. And Grandpa became central to them. We saw 15-year-old Grandpa walking home, working behind Henderson Grocery, talking to friends. Once we saw him boxing. I paused the footage. Dad stared. I stared. Grandpa looked extremely pleased with himself. 15-year-old Grandpa was built, not athletic, not skinny teenage strong. Built. Shoulders, arms, back. He moved like somebody had installed professional athlete software into a teenager. Dad looked at Grandpa, then at himself, then at me. "What happened?" "What?" Dad pointed at young Grandpa. "What happened to us?" I looked at Dad, then myself. "Apparently genetics canceled our subscription." Grandpa smiled. "Your grandmother liked me." Dad stood. "I'm leaving." Grandpa wasn't done. Had hair too. "We can see it, Dad." Grandpa leaned back. "Good-looking boy." I looked at him. "You've been waiting 80 years to say this, haven't you?" "Absolutely." Even my 2-year-old pointed at young Grandpa and said, "Strong." Grandpa pointed at Dad. "See?" Dad walked into the kitchen. "I'm getting coffee." Grandpa called after him. "Won't fix genetics." I almost became a before and after picture. Then the recording stopped. 3 nights. Nothing. I thought maybe it was over. Grandpa knew better. Saturday morning, he came to my house carrying an old photograph. Henderson Grocery. Back of the building. The homemade boxing ring. 4 posts, 3 ropes, asphalt. Grandpa pointed. "This is where it started." Then he said, "We need to finish it." That afternoon, we recreated part of the ring in my backyard. Not because Grandpa thought Ronnie needed another fight, because Grandpa believed whatever was connecting 1958 to my camera was centered around that ring. 4 posts, rope, same dimensions Grandpa remembered. We didn't finish. My wife finally looked outside and asked why 3 generations of Morgan men were constructing an illegal 1950s boxing ring beside her flower beds. I didn't have a strong answer. At 1:47 the next morning, ding. I woke up. Not my phone. A boxing bell. Ding. I ran downstairs. Grandpa was already awake. Dad came out of the guest room. We went to the back door. My backyard was gone. Well, not gone. Still there underneath. But something else had been laid over it. Fog. Cracked asphalt spread through the grass. The unfinished ropes were complete. An old loading dock appeared through my fence. Then faded letters. Henderson Grocery. My soul didn't leave the group chat. The group chat had apparently been transferred to 1958. Then headlights appeared. Rum, 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 rum. Candy apple red, white walls, chrome. Ronnie's Chevy rolled straight through my backyard fence without touching it. Stopped beside the ring. Ronnie got out. Then the others. 1, 2, 3, 4. All still young. All dressed like 1958. Then the promoter. Dark suit, fedora, leather fight bag. He smiled at Grandpa. "We've waited a long time." Grandpa stepped outside. "Apparently." I grabbed his arm. "Grandpa." He looked at me. "What?" "You're 80. "I know how old I am." "Then perhaps we don't challenge 5 supernatural boxers." "I'm not challenging anybody." He walked toward the ring. I followed. Dad followed me. My 2-year-old was safely inside with my wife. The promoter opened his bag, pulled out an old championship belt. Ronnie stared at Grandpa. "You ready?" Grandpa looked at him. "Ronnie, get in." Grandpa stepped between the ropes. Ding, he dropped. "Grandpa!" Dad and I rushed forward. Then Grandpa's hand moved. Wrinkles disappeared. Gray hair darkened. His back straightened. Shoulders widened. Arms thickened. Within seconds, my 80-year-old grandfather stood up as a 15-year-old boy. Dad and I stared, and apparently the videos hadn't done him justice. Grandpa looked down at himself, flexed one arm, then smiled. "Lord, I forgot how good I looked." Dad covered his face. "Please turn him 80 again." Grandpa touched his hair. "Look at that. We see it." I whispered to Dad, "This is getting embarrassing." Dad nodded. "I feel genetically robbed." Young Grandpa looked at us. "Neither one of you boys got my shoulders." Dad looked personally attacked. "Can we focus on the demon boxing promoter?" Fair point. The promoter handed Grandpa the championship belt. "Defend what you took." Ronnie removed his jacket, stepped into the ring. Grandpa looked down at the belt, then at Ronnie. Something changed in his face. He started laughing. Ronnie frowned. "What's funny?" Grandpa held up the belt. "This. Fight me." Grandpa shook his head. "No." The promoter's smile disappeared. Ronnie stepped forward. "You scared?" Grandpa looked at him, then at the ring, cracked asphalt, stolen rope, back wall of Henderson Grocery. He slowly shook his head. "Ronnie." Grandpa walked across the ring. "I was never the champ." Ronnie stared. Grandpa held out the belt. "You always were." Ronnie didn't take it. "You beat me. Behind Henderson Grocery. You humiliated me. We were kids. You took everything from me." Grandpa shook his head. "No." His voice softened. "That's what you never understood." He pointed around them. "This wasn't sanctioned. No judges. No commission. No officials. Hell, Henderson didn't even know we were back here." For the first time, Ronnie looked uncertain. Grandpa held out the belt again. "You earned this in a real ring." "You were the state lightweight champion before you met me." Grandpa smiled. "And after I whipped your ass behind Henderson's?" He pushed the belt against Ronnie's chest. "You were still the state lightweight champion." Ronnie looked down. The promoter stepped forward. "Don't take it." Everyone turned. The promoter's voice changed. Deeper. Wrong. "Put it down." Ronnie looked at him. "Why?" "The match isn't finished." Grandpa looked at the promoter, then smiled. "There never was a match." The promoter's face twisted. Not monstrous. Worse. For 1 second, it looked like there was nothing underneath his skin. Just darkness wearing a man's face. Ronnie looked at the belt, then at Grandpa. "You really mean that?" Grandpa nodded. "Everybody knew you were the champ." Ronnie's eyes filled. Grandpa continued. "I beat you one night behind a grocery store. That's all. You spent 65 years trying to win back something." Grandpa pushed the belt into his hands. "That you never lost." Ronnie took it. Ding! The world shook. The promoter screamed. Not human. Not even close. The asphalt cracked. Henderson Grocery flickered. Ronnie's friends stumbled. The promoter reached toward Ronnie. Ronnie hugged the belt against his chest. "No!" The promoter stopped. Ronnie looked at Grandpa, then smiled. And for the first time, he didn't look angry. He looked 19. Just 19. A kid who'd made one terrible decision because his pride got hurt. The promoter began fading. Ronnie looked at him. "Deal's over." The promoter smiled, even while disappearing. Then he looked past us, toward my house, toward the window where my 2-year-old son was watching from my wife's arms. He tipped his hat and vanished. I didn't like that, not even a little. Then Ronnie disappeared. His friends, the hot rod, Henderson Grocery. Asphalt became grass. Ropes dropped. Grandpa collapsed. 80 again. Dad and I caught him. Grandpa looked at us. "What?" Dad stared. "You're old." Grandpa touched his face. "Damn." I nodded. Nature corrected itself. Grandpa looked at me. "Still whipped him." There he was. The next morning, history changed. I searched Ronnie Whitaker. The missing person report was gone. Instead, Ronald Whitaker wins second state lightweight title, 1960. Another article, Whitaker turns professional. Another, Whitaker opens boxing gym, 1967. Marriage announcement, 3 children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, pictures, Ronnie at 30, 40, 60, 80. He'd aged. He'd lived. Ronnie Whitaker died peacefully at 82, surrounded by family. I showed Grandpa. He stared at the obituary. Then something happened. His expression changed. He started crying. "Grandpa?" He laughed through it. "I remember." "What?" "His wedding." Dad and I looked at each other. Grandpa touched the photograph. "I was there." That hadn't happened yesterday. Now it had. History wasn't just changing. Grandpa's memories were changing with it. He remembered Ronnie returning in 1958. Remembered Ronnie boxing again. Remembered Ronnie meeting his wife. Remembered them becoming friends. Decades of memories appeared inside my grandfather's head. Then Grandpa stood, walked toward his hallway, stopped at a photograph I'd seen 100 times. Except the photograph wasn't the same anymore. 2 elderly men stood inside a boxing gym. Grandpa and Ronnie, both wearing boxing gloves, both grinning, written across the bottom in black marker, "To the only man who ever whipped me when it didn't count." Ronnie, underneath in Grandpa's handwriting, "Still whipped you." I laughed. Grandpa touched the picture. "He had a good life." I nodded. "You gave it back to him?" Grandpa shook his head. "No." He looked at Ronnie. "I gave him his championship back," then smiled. "He did the rest." That should have been the end. And for a while, it was. My doorbell camera never recorded 1958 again. No hot rod, no Ronnie, no Henderson Grocery, nothing. Then about 3 months later, 1:47 in the morning, my phone buzzed. Person detected. Front door. I opened it. Modern street. Modern cars. Nobody there. Then a man stepped into frame. Dark suit. Narrow tie. Fedora. Polished shoes. The promoter. My soul immediately enabled 2-factor authentication. He walked toward the camera. Stopped. Looked directly into it. Then held up something. A tiny pair of boxing gloves. Children's size. He smiled. I stopped breathing. The promoter placed them on my porch, then leaned toward the camera. Champions run in families. My fight-or-flight response didn't choose fight, didn't choose flight. It selected father. I was downstairs before the recording ended. Front door open, porch empty, no promoter, no gloves, nothing. I checked my son's room. Sleeping. Safe. I stood there for probably 10 minutes. Then I went back downstairs, ripped the doorbell camera off the wall, threw it in a drawer, and that was the last doorbell camera I ever owned. Grandpa asked me later why I'd removed it. I told him. He listened quietly, then asked, "Little boxing gloves?" "Yeah." Grandpa nodded. "Good." I stared at him. "Good?" "He comes back, send him to me." "Grandpa, you're 80. Grandpa smiled. He already knows what I look like at 15. And walked away. I stood there watching him. 80 years old, bad knees, reading glasses in his pocket, still undefeated behind Henderson Grocery. And I realized something. The promoter had spent 65 years waiting for one rematch. If he had any sense at all, he'd leave this family alone.